What is up, guys? It's Halsey Schider with the Helicopter Podcast, and I am excited to be chatting with two new HeliCast friends, Blake and Mike. I just realized prior to pressing the record button, I did not confirm how to properly pronounce their last names, so I will happily let them do that themselves so I don't embarrass myself. Dyslexia is a thing, I guess. I don't know. However, Blake, your last name looks very similar to mine.
It is.
I'm Shrider. What are you?
I'm Shrider.
Shrider. Wow.
Yeah. Very close.
What's the butcher on that? I get a lot of Schneider. A lot of people throw N in my name.
Yeah. So I'll usually get that, and then it's usually commonly, well, I'm probably misspelled because you're SCH.
Yep.
So mine's SH, and I just tell people when they have trouble with it, I just say SH Rider, and then
I like that.
Normally will kind of.
I get Halsey Schider a lot from me, and that's not a joke.
That's probably like, on purpose.
At least that's people that don't know me. Surprisingly, people that know me, I wouldn't be surprised. And then we have Mike. Let me just take a stab. Fadale. Fadale. See?
Yes.
I should have just kept my mouth shut.
I get Fadale a lot, though. So that was good run at it. I appreciate it.
I tried. Well, guys, we're excited to have you on. You guys are part of the new Valor Flight Crew podcast, which is part of the HeliCASTS platform. In my last episode, I kind of flubbed your guys' podcast title. I don't know if you caught that yet or not. I wanted to apologize to you in person. I don't know. I'm just a little bit slow sometimes, so just bear with me. But I know that the entire MHM team is super excited to have you guys on the platform, and you guys really do blend a unique touch to our platform with being the guys that are in the back of the helicopter serving as flight crew in the air medical sense. So super excited to learn more about you guys, learn more about your podcast and how that all came about, and just kind of see where it goes. Before we get into it, of course, a big shout out to MHM Publishing for making the HeliCASTS platform possible. It's not just this podcast. It's now the Valor Flight Crew podcast. We got the Hangar Z, the Vertical MRO, and my boy Jason Quinny with the Real Rescue. It's just been such an awesome experience. And of course, to our sponsors and our listeners, we couldn't do it without you. So Mike, Blake, welcome to the Helicopter Podcast. I used to fly air medical. In fact, I just was shooting a solo episode, and it's going to probably release the week before this. And I talk about how hard air medical was. And for me, it's in the aspect of all I ever wanted to do was fly air medical. Once I transitioned to helicopters, so I was a little kid, I wanted to fly jets in the military. That dream got shattered. Then next goal was like, I got to be an air medical helicopter pilot. And I got there, and within about 2 weeks, I was like, shoot, not so sure this is for me.
Having second thoughts.
Yeah. Really the schedule was what did it for me. It's like week on, week off for the pilot where I was at. That's great. But the the week long of nights was like just killer for me. And I've never been good sleeper in general. So to flop my entire schedule wasn't really an option. And it just really knocked me off my routine. I could never really get into a good flow. And ultimately, after 2 short years, I was like, yeah, I'm done with this. But the mission was incredible. And actually, I think my favorite part of it was the crew. The air medical crews are absolutely incredible human beings. I went into air medical not knowing anything about paramedics or nurses, and came out of it being like, oh my God, you guys are absolutely incredible. We would walk into a hospital, and my paramedic, that's who knows how much they're getting paid, The doctors looking at them like, hey, you put this thing down their throat. I can't do it, and they're just incredible, and I'm just so grateful. So it's so neat to connect with you guys. Blake, we'll start with you. Just a little bit of background on your experience and what you're currently doing and what you've done in helicopters.
Thanks. So I have been flying now for over 13 years. I am located down in Southwest Florida. So it is an awesome time of year to fly right now. So dodging thunderstorms, lightning, hail, all those fun things. Hurricanes are, starting to ramp up too. So I probably just said the jinx word. So now I'm going to get blamed for that.
Thanks, Blake.
All your fault.
Usually is. But yeah, so I've been in EMS since, this is my 19th year. I started as a baby provider. I didn't know anything. And then as I got into it, I just really evolved. I really loved medicine and helping people. And it really just kind of blended both, and I did my time. I really had an interest in flying. Our agency where I work has always had a helicopter program. So you'd see everybody fly in, and, I was like, that's really what I want to do, particularly once I got into this field. So I really just started asking questions and really just trying to figure it out. And then luck of the draw, an opening came up. I tested and got it. So yeah, I've been doing it for 13 years now. I'm a field training officer as well. So I train and onboard new flight paramedics. And also we have a critical care ground response as well, and like first response SUV capacity. So we kind of show up and help our ground providers to kind of the same type of, critically ill or injured patients, but they can be, closer into the hospital, but they still obviously need care. So it's like a little bit too close for air transport, but we also provide that service. So that's kind of a little bit of my background. And I've just been, I'm a paramedic. You probably could have guessed that. I'm not a nurse. That's also on my name tag, just so that way people don't get confused, because I like to roll that right down the hill to when something might go a little bit wrong. But you know what? That's let me ask the nurse over here. I think they absolutely know what's going on.
Usually not.
Well, speaking of nurses, Mike, welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about you and your background.
Thanks for having us on. It's a pleasure to sit down and be able to talk with you. A little bit about me. I got my start in EMS about 26 years ago now. As I think we said,
you don't look old enough, by the way, for that. You started.
Trust me, my body feels it most
days. You started
days.
when you were like 5 years old or something, or what?
Far from it. No, back when I was 17, I initially thought I wanted to go to medical school, and I was like, this would be a cool thing to do before I get into college and do my EMT and see how much I liked it, and fell in love with EMS. The bug definitely bit me then, and continued to work EMS all through college, and ended up transitioning into nursing school instead. Helicopter stuff was stuff that I've been obsessed with since I've been like 5 years old. I think we all have like those moments. And like for me, mine was my mom was friends with one of the Medevac pilots down at the local hospital, took me down. They showed me the helicopter. They gave me a house key and put it on a Medevac keychain and told me it was a key to the helicopter. And I literally like slept with that keychain. that was and I was obsessed with helicopters since then. So, I'd always know which one was flying over and where they were going. And so it was just something that I kind of fell in love with. And then once I went into the nursing route, I was like, this is something that I absolutely want to do. So I worked emergency room for a little while and did critical care education. And when I finally was able to get my first flight job, was working for a vendored hybrid program here in Pennsylvania. And then I eventually transitioned to the program that I'm at right now, which is a hospital-based 135 program, and flying everything from cradle to grave. It's been an awesome experience. It really has. It keeps me on my toes. Absolutely love it. But it's been flying now for 13 years, I believe. Blake and I have been flying for about the same time.
That's awesome. Yeah, you guys clearly have a ton of experience combined. We all like to hear a little bit about the craziness of the world, right? I think when people think of air medical pilots and especially air medical nurses and paramedics, they think of blood and guts and gore. And I'm guessing that there's some of it, obviously. I'm not guessing, I've seen it. But a lot of it's pretty benign also, taking the guy that didn't take his dialysis treatment from one crappy hospital to a bigger hospital, a lot of those things. Yeah. But I'm curious if there's like a memorable flight, just to kind of kick things off with something more on the exciting side here. For me personally, on the medical side, I always like to kind of be as involved as as I could respectively, I guess. I have really no medical background. I'm a proud ski patroller actually here in Mount Bachelor. And so I have an OEC, which is like an outdoor emergency care. It's like, if this is an EMT, I'm like here. So I know nothing, honestly.
Don't discount that.
Calls come in. I'm like, oh, do I want to accept? I don't know. So that's been an interesting, and I think I have so much more respect for medical now, especially emergency response, because the ski patrol has actually really opened my eyes. But from the flight side, I always like to be as engaged as possible. And I think my most memorable air medical trip was when a guy ended up getting his leg lobbed off in like a oil jack in the oil field in Texas. And we knew going into it that, this guy had lost a limb. And we brought like a bag of ice, and sure enough, we're transporting the patient. They're giving the patient blood. They put the leg in the bag and put it like on top next to me.
Right. Yeah. Right by the pilot.
Yeah.
We usually try to put it up there.
That's protocol, by the way.
So the whole time I'm like, this is weird. Like there's this dude's leg, in the helicopter, and the guy ended up living. They gave him blood. It was a big deal, and actually I think turned into a bit of a story. And so that was, that's like to me like a quintessential air medical experience. What about you guys? I'm sure you've had some train wrecks.
Go for it, Blake.
Oh man, there's a lot. It's I think of one that was pretty memorable as we talk about it. We had a patient that was a GSW, self-inflicted, but still alive. So obviously that's why we were there.
Those are never good.
So we get there, and the area where we were at, we have a lot of, we're right on the Gulf. And so there's a lot of barrier islands. So that's where this was on a barrier island. And so it is accessible by road, but it's a long ways out. So anyway, we get out there and we do our thing, right? The patient's still alive, but critically injured. So we do all the things: blood, resuscitation, intubation, everything. And we get the patient packaged up, and gosh, I don't know if I can say this. We get everything set. We load the patient in the aircraft, and my partner was kind of a brute, and there's no like finesse. And I'm at the rear loading the patient in, and I look through the aircraft, and my partner is holding the door that he just opened to get in, and he slid it like right off the track. So now, holding it in his hand.
No.
And I'm just like, you've got to be kidding me. I'm like
the helicopter door?
Yeah, just the side door slid it right off the track. Holding it by the handle.
You have to have some serious brute strength to do that.
Just straight right off the side. It doesn't actually take too much for it to just slide right off. So now
they are slightly delicate, sure.
It stands out, like, for obviously many reasons, but I just remember just very intimately the look on the ground crew's face, because they were so happy that we took the patient, and then we unload the patient and we start walking back across the field, and like the facial expression, like the change. And it was like, wait, what? And we were like, we need your ambulance.
Yeah.
And we need to go right now. And so we did, and it was the same level of care. We just grabbed all our stuff, the helicopter's now grounded, and we ended up having to just do a really long, ground transport to the closest facility. And
that's really the interesting part of air medical, is you really have to be flexible, because the helicopter can break when you land, either self-induced,
or your partner will break it. Yeah.
or your partner will break the cardinal rule of helicopters. Like if you're forcing it, just stop.
No. And just the mechanic, when the pilot had to call them, and when they had to drive, it took them an hour and a half probably to get from where they live clear across town, over the bridges, through the traffic and everything to get out there. Now everything's a crime scene because of the nature of the call. So there's crime scene tape, there's everything. It was a fiasco of just a day. And a call that should have taken us 45 minutes was now like 8 hours of,
man.
trying to clean, explain, chart everything. Yeah. So
I feel like mechanics probably never let him touch a helicopter again.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough
Coincidentally,
one.
they don't work there anymore.
That's
So.
a tough one to live down. And as a pilot, you're kind of like mortified in that situation because you're like, oh, did I not brief properly? And just one of those things. But again, things happen, right? And that's the crazy part to me about emergency medicine. And I don't think a lot of people understand it unless you've seen it. And not saying that I fully understand it, but I've got to see it firsthand of like, my flight crew thinking that it's one thing and then boom, they're transitioning to a completely different direction.
Mm-hmm.
Or, everything's fine. And then all of a sudden everything is not fine. And always on their toes, always having that flexibility. I've had situations where, we had to land and get fuel halfway through a patient transport because things took longer on the ground than we thought. And they had me keep running, all these different things. And you just have to be flexible. And it adds to just what sometimes kind of feels like controlled chaos with the air medical. But man, when it's done right, even chaotically, it's really impressive. And that's what I loved about my flight crews. And I had the privilege of just flying with some absolute professionals that no matter what was thrown at them, no matter the time of day, they just had so much experience in that environment that they just did so well. It was so fun to watch. And that's when like my respect for you guys and flight crews in general was like, oh my God, yeah, these people are saints. So what about you, Mike? Do you have a shit show, train wreck?
Thank you to our sponsor, Instrom Helicopter Corporation. Instrom Helicopter Corporation welcomes the new 480B Elite to its fleet, fully loaded with all the top-of-the-line features, including Garmin G500H, electric air conditioning, Genesis 3-axis autopilot, exclusive paint and interior, and more. 2025 delivery dates are available, but opportunities are limited. Secure your spot at instromhelicopter.com.
Actually, I think my impactful story is not necessarily a shit show or a train wreck. It's more like on the field side of things. But
okay,
so
I'm
here
very
we go.
sensitive. I just had a daughter, so I'm like extra sad right now, or like emotional. So if you make me cry, I'm going to be upset.
No, I hopefully I won't make you cry with this one, but we'll see how it goes. But
okay.
There was a patient that I ended up flying a number of years ago, and ended up picking her up. It was the middle of the day. It was anniversary for her and her husband. They were out to lunch, and somewhere along the line, she ended up just getting this loud pop in her head and then had continual headache and had to go into the emergency room. Found out that she ended up having a brain bleed and needed to be transferred down to our particular hospital. For me, this was just another like routine day. Showed up, she's still awake, alert, oriented. She just needs to get to a neurological center. There's no big deal. Load her up in the ambulance, drive up to the LZ, fly her down to the hospital that we came from. And I was just kind of talking her through the process all along. For me, it was no big deal. Didn't really think anything of it. It was just, routine run. And went on about my life and didn't really think anything else of it. We didn't do anything heroic. We didn't do anything crazy, but we were there to be able to get her from point A to point B as quickly as we needed to. And then fast forward maybe, 8-10 months. And I had gone to a deployment to help assist for some peer support and got back from that deployment and was just in absolutely zero mood to be at work, be around my coworkers, deal with the job. The last thing I wanted to do was be there. I just wanted, some time off, and I was just in a horrible foul mood the entire day. And the doorbell rings at the hangar, and we have people that stop by the hangar all the time, and they're always looking to see the helicopter and everything. And my medical director comes walking down the hallway. He's like, "Hey, there's a grateful patient here who would like to see the helicopter and say hi to the crew." I'm like, "You've got to be kidding me right now! Like, this is not what I want to be dealing with."
Yeah.
And so throw my boots on, come around the corner, start walking down the hallway. And I wasn't even looking up yet. And I hear this voice from the end of the hall saying, "Oh my God, that's him. That's the guy that saved my life." And like, I do get emotional with telling the story every now and then, because I think what she didn't realize in that moment is that as much as she needed to see me and have that closure, like I needed to have that moment to remind me why I do what I do.
Yeah.
And it just really brought everything kind of full circle and, made me realize even the things that are just like the smallest that we do out there in air medical, it may not be big, grand, or extravagant, but it really means something special to every single patient that we transport. And it really just kind of, brought that home and really grounded me again, and certainly cheered up my day after that.
Yeah, that's incredible, right? It's easy. And first off, thank you both for sharing your stories. I think it's easy to get caught up sometimes at anything in life of like, oh, woe is me or this or that. I certainly, if you ask producer Zach, I'm a glutton for that sometimes. And it's funny. I feel like sometimes, call it divine intervention or whatever you have it, there's moments that the universe does a shift and it puts things back in perspective. I've had this is a similar story, but not really, but kind of the same shift of like, I was flying, I was a flight instructor and I was a higher time flight instructor. I don't know, 20 years old at the time. So I'm cool. Like I wear a flight suit, I drive a nice 4Runner and I freaking fly helicopters. Like I'm the man. And I'm higher time. I'm getting some seniority there and it's super hot day. I've been flying with students all day. And then all of a sudden I look at my schedule and I get this demo flight on my schedule. And I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. I'm having, woe is me. It's hot out. I'm sweaty. Why? Give it to a new guy. Don't give me this 15-minute demo because it's such a pain in the ass. You got to do all the paperwork, get a pre-flight the helicopter, and then you go and do a 15-minute lap. I think it's a 12-minute flight time, actually, and it's just miserable. And I'm just being in a piss poor mood about it the whole time. And then I go and I do the demo flight, and it's for this guy. I forget how old he was at the time. It was his birthday. I think like in his 30s. And we had to physically lift this guy into the aircraft because he had cerebral palsy. And this guy, every year, this is his birthday present that he does every single year.
Wow.
Man.
It brings him joy for 12 months is this 15-minute, $100 flight. And immediately, even at my 20-year self, which is like 17 years ago, it like flipped this switch of like complete and utter gratitude for just being able-bodied enough to be able to follow my dreams. There's this guy who can't do that because of his physical limitations. And that's really honestly stuck with me to this day. Anytime I'm having a bad day, I revert back to that day and that feeling and understanding just the fact that I'm able-bodied, I'm able to do what I want to do. That's like so important. And I think it's missed. And so I appreciate you sharing that story because it's just those little times where like the universe says, hey, get over yourself. Right? Like 100%. It could be worse. And so it's just, it's just interesting on how that all works. Before we got into the episode here, I was joking about the idea of self-loading baggage. When I first got into air medical, that was a term that wasn't being used anymore, but it was talked about a lot. Like, hey, in the good old days, it used to be self-loading baggage. Yeah. And I understood the term obviously. And, but man, the company I worked for was from the very, we had a whole week long of our initial training that was just all about crew resource management. And I learned very fast the importance of incorporating my crew into the flight operation. I've told the story before. I had a flight paramedic, Russell Monroe. I think he just had a baby, by the way. It's on Facebook. Congrats, Russell. He saved our ass one night. I was going to run into a tower that I could not see, and he called the tower. He saw it from the back, right? Yeah. Like, just because he felt like he was part of the crew, and he truly was. And so I felt like, man, it was my responsibility as a pilot to really go out of my way to make sure that they realize how important they are, because my safety and our overall safety really relies on it. Have you guys ever been involved with a pilot that has treated you more like self-loading baggage, or has your experience within air medical been relatively positive? Mike, we'll kick off with you.
I'd say overall, probably 99% of it, has been completely positive. It's really been a team atmosphere from the beginning, and even more so, I feel that way at the program that I'm at currently. There was a situation where I can remember that there was a pilot I used to fly with that, even though he knew it was a bumpy day, decided that he was still going to fly low over the mountains and shake us up a little bit more as we're going over the other sides and make life a little bit more difficult. And really, did not have much concern for the medical crew, and have certainly flown with some people along the way that there was, if there was a flight request, it was yes or no on the pilot's decision. There was really no med crew involvement that was involved in there for other reasons. And it was like, yes, we can do this flight. And well, it may not make sense to do that for the patient, but that doesn't matter. It was always a yes to going and doing that flight. And but those are very few and far between. For the most part, it has really been a positive experience. And since, I got into flying, it was in 2012, and I feel like there was already that big transition that had started to occur and really started to utilize more frequent or much better CRM in that moment or in that time frame. And so I think that for the most part, my experience has always been a relatively positive one. There's still that, phasing out the old timers and bringing in the new guys. But I think for the most part, it was pretty well accepted.
Definitely run into some old codgers along the way that say some questionable things. You're like, don't say that. Blake, follow up to this is, let's say that I'm a new guy, a new pilot to air medical. Because this is something that I had to grapple with a little bit, and I'll give my take on it when you're done. But this idea of I'm going to go and fly these professionals in the back of my helicopter that have maybe been doing it for, in some cases, 15, 20 years. Some of my flight crew had very extensive tenure in being in the back of helicopters. And I've never done an air medical mission in my life. What is the approach that you've seen that you appreciate from pilots when they're coming in, whether it's their actual first time in the air medical mission, or maybe they're like a workover pilot that's coming to your base for the first time and they haven't worked with you? What would you expect and hope that a pilot is saying to you in that situation?
Well, I've had both of those, scenarios, from the pilot's first day as a HEMS pilot. They're a competent pilot. They got the job. They have the hours, and I've also had the pilot that's new to our area that doesn't know us, that's filling in. So I've had both. And the thing that I've valued, and it's each time has always been a positive experience, is that they're just open and honest about, hey, I've never flown this, they've completed their training. Obviously that's why they're there. But they're like, today's day number one. And with our brief, from first thing right out the gate and the get-go, is that we're all on the same page. I've never encountered anybody that's not had like a respect for us, as I'm not aeronautically trained as a pilot, but I do have been around it enough that I know our local area. I know our squawk codes, for obviously for our transponder, so I know some of the radio frequencies.
If you guys get hijacked, you can go up and put 7,500 in.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Not an issue. But and when they tell me those things, and then once we get up front and we're taking off for our first flight, when I'm able to get the radios already set up, I have the coordinates already to where we're going. There's pre-designated that are already set into the GPS. I can actually set the GPS, is when they're open and honest about, hey, this is where I'm coming from. I haven't done this. And then when I can share what my experience is, what I can bring to the front of the aircraft, you let your guard down in the sense of like, you respect where the other person's coming from, but then you're also heightened. I don't know if that makes sense, but at the same time, so you're like, okay, I know what I bring. I know where they're maybe not so comfortable. And you kind of feed off that. And there's just really clear and transparent communication. And I've only had positive experiences with, both sides of that, especially like right now we're down 2 pilots at our base. So we have, pilot du jour, of who's coming in for the day or for the week,
Sure.
But the best part about it is I think this industry has learned from past mistakes of, like you said earlier, there's another two sets of eyes that we can all bring something to the table. And one little thing can make a huge difference and help us as a crew. Once we leave the ground, we will land. Like that's the thing, is no matter what, once we lift off, this helicopter is going to land. How it does that is up to all of us to make sure that we are doing it safely and effectively. And as long as we communicate and we call out the things, we're going to have successful missions and we're going to get back home each time.
Yeah, it's so important, right, to all be on the same page. A good pre-brief, I think, is crucial. One thing that I always try to do, and if you're a pilot listening to this podcast, it's usually my demographic, go figure. Don't take shortcuts, right? I think it's easy, especially if you're flying with the same crew every single day. You can kind of get into the 2-minute brief, especially if it's severe clear out, nothing's changed from the day before, blah, 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 blah. It's very easy to kind of start going away from doing proper briefs. And I think that goes with anything in helicopters. You can slowly start dwindling down the thoroughness of your pre-flight inspection because you look at the helicopter every day. Did it change from yesterday? I didn't even fly. Why am I going to do a whole 30-minute in-depth pre-flight? And I always really tried to have like a red flag go off in my head of like, that's a dangerous thought. Don't go. Don't pass go. Don't collect your $100, right? It's like,
For sure.
the second that I felt like I didn't want to do a thorough brief, red flag, got to do a thorough brief.
Right.
And sometimes even my med crew would kind of laugh like, it's, a little overkill sometimes. It's like, look, I just want to set this habit, right? To me, this is an important habit. And by and large, it was never disrespectful in the crew. Everyone always, I think, really actually appreciated that. But, going into a new environment, whether I was a new aeromedical pilot or going into a workover base or whatever, I always really tried to make sure that the crew understood that I valued them as a crew member, as a teammate to this, right? It takes 3 to tango in this case. And I always made that very clear, like, hey, look, we all, like you said, Blake, have a responsibility to come back safely. So I don't care how we do it. If the paramedic makes a good flight decision and tells me to turn around, sure, great. You got us home safe. Nice job.
Yeah.
The paramedic or nurse points out the tower that I don't see, saves our bacon. I love that, right? That's all keeping us safe. And, I think just having those conversations and then understanding that it's not just like making your crew feel like their crew, but honestly incorporating them into the crew. Clearing all your turns, making sure that they're clearing turns. Who's ever on goggles in the back, make sure that they're in the right position to be able to see and help actually with some type of, mitigation of doing your orbit at night and looking at obstacles and using their extra set of eyes. It's just so crucial. And as a pilot, when you buy into that idea that, hey, they're actually like a huge help, it's fantastic. And sometimes the help is, hey guys, it's 4 a.m. and I'm beat tired. Keep talking to me as we fly home. Let's talk. You're just a team and it's so fun. You do these crazy things together. And then you're barbecuing or then you're telling jokes and you're having a good time. So I was very fortunate to have a great crew. Something that I did notice with some of my crews, including pilots as well. So this is not med crew, but I noticed that the lifestyle is difficult. I would see a lot of my paramedic and nurse friends that have been working in this kind of late, weird 24-hour schedule for so long. They're eating dinner at 3 a.m, and they're maybe not working out or exercising as much as possible. You guys both seem like you're in pretty good shape. How important is it for med crew to take good care of themselves just based on the stress of the job, Mike?
Thanks to our sponsor, Airbus. Airbus provides the most efficient helicopter solutions to its customers who serve, protect, save lives, and safely carry passengers in demanding environments. Its civil and military helicopters are flying all over the world, making missions possible. Visit airbus.com for more information.
To say it's important is a huge understatement. For sure. I think that, you have to maintain both the mental, physical wellness for yourself. And in order to do this job, it's impossible to do without. And I think that, for the most part that I think we take good care of ourselves. When you actually take that step back and you look at what you're really doing, are we getting our exercise in for the day? Are we packing for a 24-hour shift and eating healthy food throughout that 24 hours? Are we mentally in a good spot where we can, are we coming to work well rested and ready to do this job? And if we have to be up for those 24 hours, can we do that? And I think a lot of us don't take care of ourselves that way, unfortunately. But it is extremely important. I mean, as we said before, I've been flying for 13 years now. My body is telling me at some point I'm not going to be able to jump in and out of helicopters and ambulances anymore. It's already giving me little, cues along the way. So you got to listen to your body and you got to listen to what it's telling you on a regular basis. But it's so important if you want any kind of longevity in this career to make sure that you take care of yourselves. I mean, I'll be the first to say I do not sleep well. I'm never been a good sleeper. That's still the case right now. unless I heavily medicate myself, usually with bourbon. But, you know,
A little compound.
We should talk about that too, Mike. It's not healthy coping.
No, definitely not. But I think we're all guilty of something in that. You know, we all have our guilty pleasures. And so just to come to work rested, I think is sometimes half the battle for a lot of these crews.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's so important. Ironically enough, I've become a great sleeper now that I don't have the air medical thing, you know.
Seems to be the common denominator. You removed that, the shift work.
And now I have a 4 week year old. I don't know how you say it. My baby's 4 weeks old, and now my sleep feels like air medical again. Honestly, that's how I feel.
Back to
100%. You've been training for this your whole life.
Tones going off again in the form of, you know, and it is giving me a little shake, you know, from that air medical anxiety of laying in bed and just anticipating and it wasn't where I worked. It wasn't like a pleasant tone. It was like very loud and very abrupt.
It's always right when you get comfortable. And
right
you're starting to nod off a little bit, and then
I think strategically they know when you take your boots off. Like I think that's what happens. They're like, okay, wait, okay, now he just sat down, boots are off. Tones.
My least favorite phrase in the world is "stand by for tone."
Yeah.
Just send it.
They would say, you know, they would say stand by for tones, and be like, oh shit. But here we are. We love what we do, right? Blake, you know, talking about mental health, I think as a society, we've always pushed off, especially men have pushed off this idea of, you know, taking care of our mental health. In aviation, specifically as a pilot, it's virtually impossible. It's like, I can't go and say that I've ever been depressed or had an anxious thought. Which of course I haven't, if you're listening, FAA.
Absolutely has not.
You know, because you can't be human, right? You can't deal with mental illness, and not even mental illness as like schizophrenia or something like that, of course, but like just legitimate human stuff. And the fact that you guys see some very traumatic things. One thing that I've noticed in the ski patrol is a lot of the people on my volunteer program, there's a paid staff, they do it full time, and then we're volunteers, we subsidize on the weekends. Whether the paid staff likes us or not, I'm not quite sure I know that yet, but we go there and we have good attitudes, and a lot of the folks on the volunteer side are old retired paramedics, 30 years, and one specifically is fairly open with the idea that he really suffers continually from what he's calling PTSD from 30 years. He was Seattle Fire. He was pumping chest like 2 or 3 times a night. You know, craziness, lots of things. So, you know, Blake, has there been a push to allow paramedics and nurses to have an open outlet to talk about mental health and the importance of keeping positive mental health?
Yeah, there absolutely has. It's taken a while, and unfortunately, we've lost a lot of good people because there was a stigma attached to it, right? You know, I've been here almost 20 years doing this line of work, you know, and then you step it up into the critical care world, right? So if you're in just EMS in general, like we use that as an example, I mean, every day, each call that you go on are just small traumas. And so you are going to help somebody. Someone is calling you in their time of need. So you show up and now you are part of their trauma or their experience of what they're going through. Now, we all agree that there's varying levels of distress, but again, it's still somebody's traumatic experience, right? And then for us as providers, for years, we were told that it's part of the job, right? That's what you signed up. You knew what you were getting into. And it's more than just the show calls, right? The bloody calls, the traumatic calls, those things. There's so many factors of the mental health that other people are experiencing. You are now shouldering, and then you are to take that person to a hospital. And then now they're going to continue on with whatever their journey is. So now it's supposed to stop for you. You write that report, you clear that one, and then you go on to the next call. And then you get repeatedly exposed to other traumas. And you do that time and time again. And I'll be the first to admit, I take medication. I am on antidepressants. I have been diagnosed with PTSD and clinical depression. It took me a long time. I did the most unhealthy thing, which was to just bury yourself in more work. Why not? The one thing that's already causing you heartache and grief, just go do more of it. So like, just
humans
distract.
are so smart.
I know, right?
We work so well.
Why did that snake bite me? I don't know. I should probably go find out again. Like, let me go do that. Let me go pick it up again. Right. But no, we do that. Right. But we all have our ways of dealing with it. And that's why we develop these senses of humor that people are like,
weird,
mortified, like my poor mother.
Yeah.
Please don't ever listen to
sure.
my sense of humor. But, that's how we deal with it. Right. And there has been finally the last few years a big push for everybody. And I think pilots, especially, I mean, for us as med crew, it's one thing. I think employers and people, organizations like Echo, people that have peer support teams, fast teams, people that you can be honest and talk about it, but especially for pilots too. Like, and I think that for us as med crews, yeah, we're dealing with that. We're doing that. Right. But again, that's what we do, so to speak. But for the pilots, like we all have that wonder, right? What happened to that patient, and just because you may or may not be medically trained, you're still right there with us. You're hearing these things, right? You're seeing these things and still being part of that. And then you see that over time and you go back to your family and something may relate, and then if you ask for help, there should be no stigma attached to that. Pilots are just as susceptible. And I mean, I'm sorry, but you're driving the car, you're the other biggest part of the puzzle to get that whole crew from point A to point B. So if
you're self-loaded baggage, we're just meat servos, brother.
Right? Yeah. Meat servos. Yes, exactly.
Blake, I think that
it's important.
Sorry to cut you off, but I just want to commend you because I think that now, especially with you guys having your podcast and being on a platform like HeliCASTS where there's some reach, just by you openly talking about, being medicated and being and having depression caused by what you've experienced and seen, that right there, I think is a tremendous leap forward for the community that you guys are talking to via your podcast. So just, mad props to you. It's very hard to be vulnerable. And I think that you are probably, maybe you've even been told this, I don't know, to the extent that you guys talk about it on your podcast or not, but I'm guessing that you've, just by doing that, have helped a lot of people, right? You have helped people say, "Oh, I need help too,"
right?
And if Blake is willing to talk about it in a public forum, and I respect Blake, and I know he's a tough guy, and now he's willing to say this, I mean, you will positively impact someone. So just just mad props to you, Blake, for being so open and vulnerable on that.
Well, thank you. That's our goal. Mike and I, we've been doing this podcast now for a little bit, and we just did a podcast not too long ago, the Fit for Flight. It's not only is it the physical and, the healthy habits and healthy eating and stuff, but also the mental impact that we all have to have. And like, we're all in this together, and so that's why I'm open with it. I have nothing to hide. Trust me. My life is pretty boring. But if there's anything that I can talk about, anything that I've been through, and I know Mike the same way, anything that we have experienced or gone through, you come to find out like your best friend, your neighbor, your colleague, somebody else has probably experienced something similar. And then when you can find that common ground, you can relate to that and be like, it's going to be okay. We'll all get through this. And so that's why I'm always so open. And I know Mike is too. We constantly text and we're always on each other, but we're constantly doing it to make sure that we're both solid. And that,
I mean, it's a very intense job, and whether you sign up for it or for not, right? It's like, it's a big responsibility. You guys see a lot of sad things. Yeah. You're around a lot of sad people. You're having to console loved ones and screaming partners that are like, are they going to die? It's like, that's just a constant intensity. And I think, like you said, it kind of adds up over time. And unfortunately, from the cockpit, we're not yet to a point with the Department of Transportation where we can announce things like you just announced.
Mhm.
It's getting there, right? There's talks about, programs and potential authorizations for certain medications and things like that. If someone is suffering from some, what depression or just,
Sure.
whatever it may be. And that's just an interesting part to me. Like I look at a lot of pilots, a lot of my friends that are pilots like to party. And I was no different, especially on my week offs from air medical. It was like every night was Friday night, which meant I was drinking. And it got to a point that was excessive. And so now for about 6.5 years, I've maintained sobriety from alcohol because I kind of realized that not so much the flight job. I didn't see enough bad things, I think, honestly, to really affect me from that perspective. But I think just the stress of just keeping a flight crew safe and the stress of it's a weird environment to, like, every call that you take, you could die, right? The helicopter could fall apart. We saw a helicopter follow this guy in New York recently. Bad things could just happen no matter what you do. And so I think it was that stress that was always irking on me. And, I was handling it in an unhealthy way. And so I drank a lot. And I see that a lot with a lot of pilots, airline, helicopter pilots. And I think a big part of it is because we don't feel enabled to talk about our feelings. So it's just, I'm very interested to see. I think we're moving in a direction where hopefully pilots can get better support and not be jeopardize their career, right?
Yeah.
If I go into a medical right now and I take that I have anxiety or depression, look, I'm not getting paid to fly anymore, right?
Right.
And so that's an interesting place. And I really hope that aviation as a whole can figure it out. I get that mental illness could be a limiting factor of being a pilot. I agree that there should be a level of mental health that is required for safe operation. But there has to be a place that can help deal with some of the low-lying being a human, I don't know.
As always, a special thanks to Helicopter for producing this podcast. Specializing in helicopter evaluations, faster sales, and superb service, Helicopter is the go-to agency for clients expecting immediate results. Helicopter's team of helicopter professionals are the best in the business. Using their aviation expertise, a nationwide network, and a proprietary 76-step listing strategy, Helicopter will convert your listing from Mayday to payday. Ready to get started? Text Helicopter to 1-855-Helicopter. That's Helicopter to 1-855-735-5226. And a Helicopter pilot agent will reach out. Helicopter. List it, sell it, done.
But it's not even just, that you need to go to a counselor and that you get a diagnosis of depression or anxiety or any of those things. It's about having an outlet to be able to process or talk through some of the things that you have going on. And that's why, I think peer support teams have really taken off over the last couple of years, and you're starting to see a lot more of that. And I do know that there are some that are in like the major airlines for the pilots as a peer support team, that they are able to have somebody that understands the job, that's able to have that conversation. So I'm really hoping that we start to see that more go in that direction, so that people understand. Like sometimes it's just about, I need to just get it off my chest. I just need to talk about it. And it doesn't mean that I need to talk to somebody professionally. It means I can talk to a peer and I can just have that peer-to-peer conversation. But I'm also a huge advocate for people having, counselors. I see mine every 2 weeks, and it's not because I'm depressed. It's because I need to have that check-in and make sure that I'm processing the things that I do see on an everyday basis, and make sure that I'm processing them in the right way. And so I love that check-in every 2 weeks. It's kind of like just catching up with my counselor now anymore. But, I highly recommend that for everybody. But it's not necessarily that there has to be a diagnosis associated with it.
Yeah, no, it's such a great point, Mike. And you're so true. There's, in fact, there was a time where I started opening up to my fellow pilot friends about some of the struggles that I was having. And in turn, they would say like, oh, I feel the same way. And it's, I'm not saying misery loves company as like misery being a bad thing, but I feel like when you share something that you're like, oh, that same person feels the same way. Like it just makes you know that you're not alone in that thinking. Because sometimes I started to think like, oh man, it's like, I wonder how many other pilots have some of these feelings or this or that, And then you talk to everyone, it's everyone. Everyone has those feelings, and you're like, oh, okay, well, maybe I'm not crazy after all, which is, a relief. So
Right.
yeah, I think it's so important. And I, just commend both of you. I think that EMS, critical care workers on the front line, you guys see some pretty crazy things, and to be open about just some of the mental aspect and the struggle that can go with that. I think you will ultimately save people's lives in a different way by talking about it. So, not only are you going out there boots on the ground and saving lives every day, but just through talking about it, I think it will affect people in a positive way. So kudos to both of you. Speaking of podcasts, the Valor flight crew, it's right there in the back. I can't forget it now. It's right. You guys are really outdoing me here. I just
we need to get you a banner, buddy. Maybe we'll pull some strings for you.
Yeah, I know.
I know a guy.
I'm like the second podcast on the platform. Like, what the heck, guys? Well, actually, what it is Derek and Mike and John understand how stubborn I am, and I'll be like, I don't want a banner. I'll be like, yeah, I paid for this, so no.
It is very nice background. I do like that.
It's cool. It's it turned out exactly how I wanted, which is cool. Like, when you have something in your head and you're so excited for it, and then it just doesn't happen like the way you had in your head.
All the time.
This is exactly what I imagined. So I'm just quite happy, because it's usually not the case. And no, I did not do any of this myself. I have zero ability in any type of woodworking. So
right there with you.
A hired out job. But the podcast, tell me about the birth of the podcast, how it came, what it's been like for you guys so far, and just and what can listeners expect when they're tuning in to the Valor Flight Crew podcast?
So with the podcast, it's been a great adventure that we've had with Vertical and the HeliCASTS platform. It was really kind of an idea that was sprung up about a year and a half ago, I guess it was about a year and a half ago now, about that we'd like to kind of partner with Vertical Magazine and the HeliCASTS platform with Echo, and to kind of meld the two together to be able to bring this podcast out. And we wanted the concept to be something completely different than all the other podcasts that are out there. And we think that there's a ton of podcasts that are focusing on teaching you something regarding critical care medicine. Whereas we wanted to focus more so on the crew aspect of things, and to focusing on all public safety aviation and bringing all of the crew members together. So really, breaking down those barriers and having those crucial conversations with some of our pilots so that we understand where they're coming from, and vice versa, so they understand where we're coming from. Talking with our maintainers, talking with our communication specialists, and then also talking about some of the impressive things that are going on in the industry. Like, where are we going in 5-10 years from now? Like, this seems to be changing on an exponential level. And I think that it's exciting to see where we're going, where we've come from, where we are now, and where we're going to be going in the future. And so we really wanted to kind of have general discussions with some of the people that are really leading a lot of that stuff within the industry, and really just kind of bringing everybody together and breaking down those barriers. That was one of the things for me joining Echo that I was so profound, and what I enjoyed so much was the fact that it didn't matter what color flight suit you wear. It doesn't matter what helicopter service you're with. We all do the same job, and we all want to go home to our families at the end of each day. And how can we improve everything across the entire industry? And so if we can share some best practices, if we can share some latest and greatest ideas, and if we can break down those barriers and have some of those crucial conversations, then we're winning. And that's what we're trying to do with this podcast.
Yeah, it's awesome. Blake, talk to me a little bit about some of the innovation that Mike is talking about there. What's happening in the air medical world that's kind of innovative and exciting?
Oof. We are rapidly moving forward with technology. I think AI, artificial intelligence, and just the scope of care that we're bringing to our patients' bedside from doing this podcast. And as we're talking to everybody else, other people, stakeholders, we're finding out that we're not alone. We are, transitioning to, in the past, 5 or 6 years, Mike, that most flight programs now are carrying blood products, where before it was, you would only really see it if you were hospital based, because you had ready access to it, and it made that process really, really seamless. But now you're seeing just about every helicopter that shows up is carrying blood products. And now from that point now to whole blood, which we're doing now at where I'm at, you're seeing ultrasounds hitting the field that we're bringing. So we're identifying, these patients that are injured, if they're bleeding, if they're having pneumos, things like that. You're seeing chest thoracostomies, chest tubes being placed. Those were usually reserved for just, again, some of these specific flight programs, where now there's a lot of programs that are doing that right out in the forefront. And then with AI, I'm hopeful. The biggest piece I think that we're going to really see improving is our documentation and the charting software. Please. There's no reason not to, right?
Charting looks like it sucks.
It's horrible.
It absolutely does. Can confirm.
I was never envious of we would get back from a long flight and I would fuel up the
Pilot's
helicopter.
Like, toes up, I'll see you.
Wipe it down, put it in the hangar. The next morning, the poor paramedic is still in the office.
Yeah.
Charting away. Like, what are you? Oh my God.
It's like horrible. 4 empty cups of coffee, and, just everything. Yeah. I think, but just seeing like now there's the technology exists, man. I've used this analogy before, and, there's a remote control car on Mars, that we drive from Earth.
Yeah.
So there is no reason why we can't have a more you can still have robust and very good documentation, but there's technology that can it literally will write it for you. If
I was going to say, like, what you could probably just wear glasses now that can capture everything that you're.
I have no doubt it's coming.
Administering and recording everything that you're saying.
Absolutely.
And do a full chart that's probably 10 times better than you can chart.
1,000%. And it makes it professional, right? Physicians for years have been doing voice dictation, right? They sit there and they're talking on a phone and they're dictating everything that they did for the patient. And then in the background, well, before someone was typing, now it's all, obviously transcripted, but that's, I think, the huge push for our technology. And then not only from the medical side, but we're seeing everything coming into the helicopters as well to help us, with the advancements and just the ventilators and the monitors, things that we actually have access to now. I mean, we're rapidly progressing forward.
And how many episodes are you guys in now?
Ooh, I want to say 18 or so.
Nice.
Somewhere around there. A lot more on the horizon.
Has podcasting been more difficult, easier, or exactly what you thought it would be?
It's been a lot of fun, honestly. So I didn't put my name in the hat for this seat at all. And there were a couple people that came and said, we think you would be great at doing this. And I'm like, I don't know that I want to do this. And I was like, fine, I'll do it, but I want some help. And Blake ended up getting roped into it from there. And it's been a ton of fun. Like being able to talk with some leaders in the industry from literally across the world.
It's cool.
It is a really cool experience. And to get to have some of these really awesome conversations, I just I feel very blessed to be able to be sitting in the seat and be able to be here with Blake.
Yeah, and the MHM effect is real because, I did the podcast for about a year or so without MHM. And then you join MHM and now you have some street cred. So you really get to talk to people because they're like, okay, MHM vertical, that's a big platform. Cool, And so now they're willing to talk to you. And so, the MHM effect for me, not only have we seen an increase in viewership, but we've also seen this increase in being able to just have really good guests on, people that admittedly probably wouldn't talk to me if it wasn't for the relationship of MHM. And I have no qualms against that. So that's really cool. And
actually, I'll correct myself, 21 episodes as of yesterday, and a lot more on the horizon.
Producer Zach, text me. How many episodes have we done? If he's listening, he's probably zoned out. The jerk. It's podcasting is fun. But it's challenging, right? It's a simple conversation, but it is hard to have a pointed conversation sometimes. And you guys have been great, easy to talk to, good guests. You can tell that you guys podcast. You guys have a little bit of that experience. Makes my job a little bit easier today. And so I really appreciate you guys coming on the show and talking about, your experiences in the back of the helicopter. And I think we got to touch on some really cool things. Regarding Echo, how can people get involved with Echo? And just to give me a brief summary, Mike, on what Echo is, in case our listeners are not familiar.
Yeah, so if anybody is not familiar with Echo, you can certainly go check out our website at echoflightcrew.org. We started off as like free to low cost education, providing for all public safety aviation, and it's really evolved from there. What was a first a fly-in of 14 helicopters is now a yearly conference with over 500 people attending. So some really great education, some super high level critical care stuff that's being shared across the industry. And then we're also have a couple other facets. So we have our peer support team, we have our safety team, we have our future flight crew, and now future flight leaders. So all facets of Echo that are really exploding year after year and really trying to give back to the industry itself. Every single person that volunteers at Echo is exactly that, 100% volunteer. No one takes home a paycheck. And we do it because we want to improve the industry, and that includes all public safety aviation. So police, fire, EMS, search and rescue, military, we're out there for each other, and we really want to bring everybody together to advance the industry.
The feedback that I've heard from John and Mike about Echo is that it's just a tried and true, amazing conference put on by, like you said, volunteers and very committed folks. I mean, that's how you know an organization is good, when no one's getting paid, right? It's because you're there to make a difference.
Yeah.
So,
any money that does come in from our sponsors and our vendors goes right back into flight crews, and that's the coolest part about it.
Man, that's incredible. Really cool. If you're not familiar with Echo, guys, check it out. Connect. If you're a pilot and you're struggling with some mental health and you need someone to talk to, I'm sure that Echo can help with that, right? There's probably
Absolutely.
support geared around pilots, med crew, of course, the same. You got to check out the Valor Flight Crew podcast, 18 or 21 episodes in. And it's such a neat addition to the HeliCast platform. That's what I love about HeliCast, is that we have a little bit of everything, right? My podcast is very generic. I can talk to air medical guys. I can talk to news guys. I can talk to law enforcement. I can talk to whoever. Then you have the Hangar Z, very law enforcement, public safety, with Jack and John who lived that life for so long, and just have amazing folks on their podcast. They've even had some recent conversations around mental health as well. So that's awesome. Gotta love Jason Quinn. That guy's like a little Chihuahua puppy with the most energy, with the real rescue and just a total badass.
I don't know, some days I think you match his energy.
Me?
Yes.
Oh my God, that's I'll take that as a compliment. That's insane.
Absolutely.
And you have no idea how tired I am all the time. So it's and now you guys coming in with the Valor Flight Crew, I think it's really cool. Kudos to MHM for recognizing that this content is not only important for their brand, but also just important for the industry and really has long-lasting impact. And so it sounds like you guys are having some really phenomenal conversations. So please go ahead and check them out. You can listen to all the HeliCASTS podcasts, but you can check it out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, essentially anywhere where you enjoy your podcasts. You all got to give it a listen. So Mike, Blake, thanks for joining. Really appreciate it. Look forward to getting to know you guys, and hopefully, joining you at some conferences and doing some in-person podcasting together.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thank you so much. This has been great.
Thanks, Halsey. It's been a great time.
To our listeners, thanks for listening.
Please stay tuned for a final word from our sponsors.
Thank you to our sponsor, Instrom Helicopter Corporation. Instrom Helicopter Corporation welcomes the new 480B Elite to its fleet, fully loaded with all the top-of-the-line features, including Garmin G500H, electric air conditioning, Genesis 3-axis autopilot, exclusive paint and interior, and more. 2025 delivery dates are available, but opportunities are limited. Secure your spot at instromhelicopter.com.
As always, a special thanks to Helicopter for producing this podcast. Specializing in helicopter evaluations, faster sales, and superb service, Helicopter is the go-to agency for clients expecting immediate results. Helicopter's team of helicopter professionals are the best in the business. Using their aviation expertise, a nationwide network, and a proprietary 76-step listing strategy, Helicopter will convert your listing from Mayday to payday. Ready to get started? Text Helicopter to 1-855-Helicopter. That's Helicopter to 1-855-735-5226. And a Helicopter pilot agent will reach out. Helicopter. List it, sell it, done.
Thanks to our sponsor, Airbus. Airbus provides the most efficient helicopter solutions to its customers who serve, protect, save lives, and safely carry passengers in demanding environments. Its civil and military helicopters are flying all over the world, making missions possible. Visit airbus.com for more information.